Okay, we're going with the third part of the video. We built this. We made the equilateral triangle. We drew the big one in the middle. Then we got to this part where we drew this first small one by doing the same thing, but with the folds to make this one. And then I did that the two other times, at this side and on that side, to create a triangle that looks like this so far. So now you start to see that our triangle is breaking down into that Sierpinski pattern of kind of the same shapes happening over and over again. So you guys should be kind of getting that far. The last step is to start to do the smaller triangles in these corners. And the way I wanted to show you to do that is that we start to find the midpoints once again. Like, let's focus on this corner. We know the midpoint right here of this triangle is right there, but we don't know the midpoint at the bottom. So we can fold again, or we can measure. So one way to measure is that I know, because we started with an 8.5 inch triangle, I know that all of these side lengths on the smallest triangle should be 2 and 1/8, which you can see right there. It is 1 inch, 2 inches, 2 and 1/8. So that means the halfway point would be 1 and 1/16. I'm going to draw that and make sure it looks like it's right in the middle, and it is, and I can fold it too. And then I'm going to find the same point on this side, so I can do the fold method that we did earlier, or I can measure. And what I'm going to do when I measure is, once again, it's 2 and 1/8. I'm going to go to 1 and 1/16 and put a dot there. And now what we have is our 3 midpoints on the small one. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to connect those midpoints. So the midpoint of this triangle comes across. The midpoint of this triangle, which very conveniently lines up with, if you can see up there, it lines up. The midpoint for that triangle is right here. And then we're going to do the midpoint of this last one from midpoint to midpoint. And if you notice, it's always the same. Like, basically, we are breaking this one down into an even smaller triangle. And that one looks a lot like these other ones once I start to put that pattern in the middle. So I'm going to continue this line across, just inside of that new triangle that we made, the one in the middle. I'm going to continue that across. I'm going to draw a line straight up. And if you notice, from here to there, it makes a really nice perfect line right down the middle. So I'm going to draw that one straight up. I'm using the straight edge. I'm not measuring anymore. I'm just lining things up. And then I'm going to make the last one I'm going to do is the line from here to there, which gives me the last kind of construction mark going across my little triangle. And these are the smallest triangles. Now, we can keep going. I can make even smaller ones. And if you look at my example on the original, I did make one smaller one. But now what I have is big triangle broken up into that pattern, smaller triangle, and then the smallest triangle. And then we extend that pattern over and over again. So that pattern happens up here. It happens here, here, here. All those open triangles become one of those smaller ones. So what you start to see is this, where the smaller triangles are filled in, and then if you want to go even further, you go to this tiny one right there, which I can keep going. I could break this up again. And this is Sierpinski's triangle, the pattern going over and over again, which creates this really beautiful sequence, right? And that's where we get to this. And when I designed it and colored it, I colored it using the same pattern on each one. So like I made the light green here and there on each one. So it was always in that upper right-hand corner. The dark green was always in this spot and that spot on each one. And what that does is it starts to create a really beautiful pattern that we can reproduce. So I want you guys to be creative, take these steps, and do what you can with this. Try to make this into a really beautiful project. Okay, have fun.